Okay, welcome guys. This is our podcast. Today we're joined by my colleague Suzy, who is part of the compliance onboarding team, and myself. I'm the head of sales in Finrax. I've been working in this industry for almost 10 years now in a number of different positions across the board. So I've been offering KPMs, I've been offering different payment options, card payments, crypto payments, wallets, in all kinds of different positions. So I would say I've seen the different perspective. I've seen the different issues and challenges across the board. And today, as I mentioned, we're mentioned by Suzy.
Hi, it is great to be here with you today. I'm Suzy and I'm part of Finrax's onboarding team. I've been in the industry for about 4 years now, and I've been with the company for over a year. Well, we felt like a shorter time. I didn't realize it's over a year now, but it's great to be here today.
Yeah. So without any further ado, I'd say we can jump straight into it. With the first question, why do our teams usually tend to work in silos? And what are the issues that typically and usually we see there?
That is a great question. Well, I would say that it is because the effectiveness essentially of our teams is measured differently, right? While you guys are focused on momentum, on closing the deal, chasing revenue targets, we're focused on protecting the business and ensuring regulatory adherence. So although we are both working towards the same goal, which is the company's growth, these different measurements can create different perspectives.
Yeah, and then it's the mindsets usually with the people that are part of those teams. Due to the nature of the work that's being done, new biz devs usually they're the pushy ones. They're always searching for new opportunities and ways to get people onboarded. And typically what I see from the compliance side of things, most of the times is actually concerns about what would be an issue for the business, what would be a risk that needs to be mitigated, and both that we have different targets. So with you guys, it's, as you mentioned, risk mitigation. You're measured and monitored on this, while with us, it's new business growth. So we're always looking for more and more clients, and you're looking for the right clients.
Indeed.
What would you say is a very often or common thing that happens and that comes in from this situation that we're working in different silos?
Well, I think we can both agree that sometimes there is friction and there are, well, I would say quite a few points where friction is created, right? The first one, obviously, is the onboarding process, right? So from the beginning, you bring in the client and of course you want them to be onboarded as fast as possible. However, we do need our time to perform the relevant checks, make sure that our risk assessment is proper. So this of course can create some friction. Also, risk assessment on its own, basically, because while like a lead can be very appealing from a commercial perspective, from a compliance perspective, it can be perceived as high risk. So this is another thing that
can happen. But on my end, it's often where it may seem as a high risk, but actually, if you qualify it and actually explore it to the final stage, it turns out that it's not that bad, it's not that scary.
That is why I think it's crucial for us to have effective communication, right? Because you're the ones that know the client, you know their business model, what is the need that they have, why are they coming to us. So when there is a clear communication between us, we can easily understand the client.
Yep. It's more often than not that when we begin speaking with the clients, we do this in a free form. We met with them someplace. Was it an event, an expo, or did we have a call with them? And there are many things that were mentioned, discussed with us, during this time. We know them, we're aware of them, but when it actually gets to your team for onboarding, those are maybe not mentioned from the get-go, so you're missing this piece of information. So I can acknowledge that every now and then this can lead to this absence of proper information. So yeah, I would say it is quite important to keep open communication channels and make sure that from the get-go both teams actually know as much of the information as possible, so that we can actually qualify and onboard potential clients and deals in the best possible way. What other friction points would you say are the ones that we see on day to day?
Well, sometimes it's also about prioritization. Of course, when you have multiple people in your team, each one of you has their own priorities, that one lead or two leads that are quite important. And of course, we want to make sure that we engage with the client before a competitor does. And this is absolutely relevant. However, we are also, we also have our priorities. And sometimes friction can be created when commercial is pushing for a certain lead, but for example, there are multiple leads that are being pushed at the same time. So I always say that, I know it's like a very cliche phrase, but when everything is important, nothing is important.
Nothing is really important, that's true. And I've seen it happen in other places where actually exactly this kind of open channels of communication and prioritization is absent. And for example, each business developer is operating on their own as a sole warrior, and they're always chasing and they're always pushing their agenda, where they actually don't know the full picture, they don't know everything that's happening.
Exactly.
But in places where that's implemented in the right way, and actually you're aware of everything that's happening and all the other applications that are moving in parallel, you can actually get to appreciate the work that's being done, and being aware of how to prioritize and maybe step back a little bit, allow for something else to be prioritized. And then the same thing applies in the other way. So sometimes, because you know the potential, because you're aware of everything else that's happening, you can actually be that much more assertive in prioritizing the right lead and the right opportunity, as long as the onboarding teams are listening and they understand this as well.
Yes, indeed. And as you mentioned about the commercial side not really understanding the client or not having the full picture about the client, this also creates a friction, because if you don't know the client, it's really hard for us to understand it. Of course, we'll check all of the documents, we will assess all of the information that they have provided at onboarding, but really that context, that talk that you had with them at the event or a meeting online, it's really crucial for us.
Yeah, and for me that's also very important, and that's something I try to instill in the team as well, to actually have a better than average understanding of the compliance processes and the requirements in themselves. Because for me, half of the battle is before you actually start onboarding, to actually understand how to approach a particular business case, a particular merchant. If you're aware of those things, if you as a biz dev know exactly what it's going to take to onboard a particular client from a compliance perspective, that can actually help expedite things that much better. If you come prepared from the get-go with everything, and actually you prepare the information and provide it to the onboarding team, I hope that's appreciated and actually helps things to be reviewed and processed faster.
Yes, absolutely. And it sets the client's expectations right from the start, which is also vital. So
that's true. And that's something else that we do, I think, well, or we try to do, is with embedding those processes from the get-go, like having the proper training, having the proper communication channels between the two teams, weekly or recurring meetings where we align as teams of what's happening with the particular onboarding, and having this discussed across the teams, not with just the involved biz dev and compliance manager on the other side. Is important, because that builds knowledge and experience for both teams, that sets precedents and examples of what has been done, how something has been solved in the past, which hopefully can help in the future with a new potential client.
Yes, exactly.
With the different setups, for sure, that at least for me helps. I'd say that another topic we usually see, especially in this year around new regulations and new licensing schemes, is that we also see that our own clients and partners are interested to find out how that's going to impact them and by extension the services that we can provide to them, as well as they themselves change their expectations and their own mindsets. So on our end, a lot of questions that I've seen so far this year is what's happening around MiCA and licensing, and I'm sure we'll get into it in more detail a little bit later on, but it is noticeable that our own potential clients and partners are inquisitive and checking exactly how we meet and comply with ongoing and forever changing licensing schemes. So how do you monitor those things on your side? How do you typically reflect and solve for those changes?
So we are constantly trying to stay on top of things. As you said, in the crypto space, regulations are constantly evolving rapidly, I would say. So our teams are focused on regulatory research. How can we actually translate regulations into our policies, procedures, and then implement effective controls? So this is, I would say, it's a non-stop, constant flow of research, of effort that we put in ensuring that we stay compliant. So with MiCA, we are in the process of we're applying for a crypto service provider license under MiCA. So this is something that
and we have been for quite a while, to be honest. So we've been staying on top of it for more than 3 years now, I think. Ever since it was, I'm blanking out, ever since it was communicated from the EU that's something that's going to be coming, I think we were starting to look into what that would actually entail and what it would require. And I'd say we were in a good position compared to other providers, that we were already doing a lot of the things that came to be required under the MiCA licensing as we know it so far, that we have been doing them before. So that helped us to be one step ahead of the competition or other providers, I would say, for sure.
We have definitely applied a proactive risk management approach, and this is truly a differentiating point between us and other competitors.
For sure, that's something I've noticed, that usually what I would see is that the position where the compliance team is coming from is they're finding a reason not to onboard a merchant or not to work with a particular merchant or client. Whereas the much more healthy position and the much more productive position that I would love to see, and is what I'm seeing, is that the team here is always looking for a way to find a way for us to work with a particular merchant and onboard. Also the fact that typically I'd see that compliance teams are not customer facing. They avoid speaking directly with the merchants. They avoid asking questions directly to them. That also adds one extra step of potential miscommunication and misalignment, that if you build proper processes and actually you have a compliance team that's comfortable with being customer facing, can be skipped and actually expedite the whole onboarding process and make it that much smoother.
Yes, I definitely agree. From my perspective and my day-to-day work, I would say just jumping on a call with a client, even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes, can significantly change our perception of the client. And all of these bottlenecks, let's say, that it is hard to actually, get rid of in an email. When you speak to the customer, everything changes. And when compliance is refusing to get engaged with the customer this way, it's just counterproductive.
It is, and actually, I know that you've been on both sides. So you've been in teams and processes where it was a complete no-go to be customer facing, and now here in Finrax, it's the complete opposite, where the procedure is built up from the ground up, that actually the onboarding team is customer facing from the get-go, from the moment we start actually gathering documentation verifications for the document. So I'm actually interested to see your perspective. Did you find it challenging, this switch to being customer facing, or was it actually fairly easy?
To be honest, it wasn't difficult because you really see the value of having that conversation. And this is what can bring, I'm not exaggerating, 6 months of the client being in the onboarding loop to a few weeks or days. So
Yeah. Me personally, I also appreciate it because I've also been in positions where I had to work with both setups and both processes, and it's exactly what you're saying. It's one battle to be the middleman and trying to communicate both effectively with the merchant and with the compliance team, trying to pass the information as honestly and as truthfully as possible, making sure that things are progressing and there is no miscommunications or any issues. And I've been in a place where the onboarding team is customer facing, and still every now and then I would notice some issues with maybe the compliance team would get focused too much on something that has been mentioned without a second thought from the merchant.
yes,
Maybe they would make it too much of an issue, where the reality is that maybe the merchant themselves didn't explain themselves too well. So it can work both ways. Being in the middle, making sure that actually you filter or even translate in some cases the information can be helpful. But in at the end, I do believe that it's much faster and much more beneficial for the teams to be customer facing on both sides and open to having those discussions. But I'm interested, have you come into situations where, because of the misalignment of the targets between the two teams, that we've seen points of friction and points of contention and issues. So because there are misalignments of the expectations and the targets and the goals of the teams, to actually get into heated situations or communications?
well, again, for example, one of your main targets is revenue growth. So when there is this misalignment, let's say that revenue growth should be, chased rapidly, and we need to increase, let's say, I don't know, like with 20% by the next month. And then our job is to make sure that the revenue that comes in, it's sustainable, it's safe. This is, I would say, what really creates friction.
Yeah. And again, that's the yin and yang, I would say, of business and compliance. At the end of the day, we're working for the same thing, but we're just approaching it from the two polar opposites of the spectrum. And actually making sure that we're as close as possible in the middle in terms of understandings and policies and processes helps avoid needless frictions and bottlenecks, for sure. I do understand, I do realize that we have to have the different goals, the different targets, the different goals to be achieved. I try to instill the understanding in our teams where the compliance team is coming from. Every now and then, I'm just too worried that actually the compliance team is not aware of the other side of the thing, of the equation, that what we are fighting for is also important. And
that is why I would say, because we do perform trainings, we share with you guys what our requirements are, what are the potential risks of non-compliance. But I would say here at Finrax, as we already mentioned, we have very effective communication. So you always are able to bring your side. So I think that is very...
That's true, and something that's actually very helpful that we've done here as part of the structure of the onboarding is having easy pre-approvals.
Yes.
So what I mean by easy is like it's not an issue for a biz dev to come to the onboarding team and ask a question. If we're not sure if we can work with a particular merchant even before actually starting talking with the merchant. We've made it very easy for us to come to your team, ask you or somebody else about would that be acceptable? If yes, what needs to be gathered, what needs to be clarified or figured out before we actually start speaking in earnest with the merchant. So being able to do this and being sure that the person on the other side actually evaluates this from a perspective of how can we make sure we work with this is really helpful and reassuring that we're not leaving business on the table or money on the table.
Exactly. As long as we have clear understanding from the get-go about who the merchant is, what are the potential risks, then we can save so much time, especially via that pre-approval process that we have.
Yeah, and then all the work we've done in terms of automation with the platforms that we're using, with the checks that we carry in the background without having to involve manual labor. I do believe that expedites things a lot. That actually also makes the experience of the merchants that are onboarding with us that much better. Since I have been in a fully manual process where everything needs to be gathered by hand and requested step by step, which definitely prolongs the whole onboarding process. Each back and forward that you have to go back with the merchant and request something new, that would be at least an added week of waiting and communication and then chasing both the merchant or the compliance team. And if that can be saved and shortened, actually helps getting things done much faster, because merchants, when they decide they want to use our services, usually they expect to have their services available and their account opened with us yesterday.
Basically, yes. Yes. So what we have in place, as you mentioned, we have KYB tool that we use for onboarding. So we have created customized workflows within that system that are very intuitive. So what the journey would look like for the client would heavily depend on their industry, on their jurisdiction. So they will not be asked for documents or questions that are not relevant to them. And also I would say that our workflows are very straightforward. They're easy to navigate, so it's not challenging for the customer to just fill out all of the information that we're requiring. In terms of documentation, we have detailed description of exactly what our requirements are. So I would say that significantly reduces the onboarding time.
I would say we actually need some refreshers at this point with our team as well. Just to be on the safe side, because things are forever changing.
Yes.
So I think we're due for another refresher soon.
Well, I'll work on that after the podcast.
Perfect. What would you say was a recent thing that a regulation forced us to change in our processes when it comes to compliance?
So I would say, one big thing across Europe, of course, is offering only MiCA-approved stablecoins. Mm-hmm. I'll say that. And also, as regulations shift, you inevitably are forced to shift when it comes to the jurisdictions that you can target the types of businesses. So we try to, we constantly move.
And act correctively, even I would say.
Yeah.
From my perspective, we did have to change the way we provide our services, not only to our future clients, but our existing ones. There's no way around it. MiCA is a big thing and it's here to stay. Yeah. So we did have to scramble. We did have to change and realign, for example, how we provide stablecoins, which stablecoins we can provide to EU-based merchants, to EU operations and both non-EU operations. How we approach this as well was a change that we had to figure out and implement. But what I find is that initially, when we were looking into it, all those changes that needed to come into place, we had big concerns how the actual clients are going to react and respond to them. Because usually merchants, our clients, they're not too open or welcoming to changes. Because that requires changes in their operations, in their setups, maybe onboardings of new entities. And if they can avoid this, if they can just continue operating as is, that would be ideal. But what I find, and I've seen this in a number of different cases, so it's not only with Micah this year, but a couple of years ago we had similar changes around solicitation and local operations and offshore entities operating in Europe, is that actually our own clients themselves, they understand that this is something that's constantly evolving, and we perceive that they'll be against it and they'll be pushing against those change, but actually they're just as willing and open to finding a solution and solving for the new challenge at hand, actually as fast as possible. Some cases they're even faster than us in actually figuring out what would be the next way to work with the new regulations.
Yeah.
And that's something that also helps with the calls that you sit down with them, because I have been in calls where actually a merchant would explain what they're doing in terms of regulations and requirements from their perspective, and that would help us understand and actually improve our own internal process in terms of how we can service them as well.
Yeah, so a lot of our clients are obliged entities themselves. So they need to adhere to their own regulations. They help us understand their world better. And as you said, for us to change if needed. Change can be scary, we all know that. But I believe clients really do appreciate when they see the efforts from our side, and also gives them, like, they feel safe when they know that we are putting effort into being compliant and building strong controls. And especially when it comes to our own regulations, when our clients feel informed, when we sit down with them and we explain the change, we explain the impacts, I think this is where they start to feel more comfortable.
That's for sure true. But the same applies for the cases where we don't need to be as strict, because they understand that in some cases we can work to resolve things fast and actually provide them with a service that's not as limited if we sit down and we understand exactly what their needs are and exactly how we can meet them. It can turn out that actually we can facilitate much more things than what was the original concept of, for example, offering the services. Well, how do we maintain the efficiency? Again, it echoes back to what we already talked, yes. I would say, of having proper communications between the teams. So proper cross-department trainings. So something else that we do that's not very common is actually we're happy, and I'm actually always pushing to have people from the compliance team present at an event where we have a stand. Yes. Because it's very beneficial, and I know that actually you've been to one of those events where you as a compliance person actually go to the event and see the industry firsthand. You understand the people on the other side that we're onboarding. You see them as people, you see them how they're thinking, what their actual challenges may be. And that helps even out any differences in the silos. So providing this is very helpful. And actually I would like to hear your feedback of what your experience was that with going to the event, for example.
Well, that was a very interesting experience that I was honestly a bit nervous before going there because I've never been to such an event. But as you said, it was great to see that these people that I see just as a name in the email, in the while we are onboarding the client or on our platform is an actual person, and they have a business that they're passionate about, and it really helps you really understand what they're doing, not just sitting, behind your desk looking at documents and assessing. It just gives you another perspective.
And you understand that their communication in email, when they suggest something different, over email you may perceive it as this guy is shady, this guy's looking for a way to circumvent something. But actually, if you have the same communication and the same discussion in person, you actually see that the person is just really thinking of solutions in the best possible way, right? So having this context
really matters.
It matters for sure.
It does. Yes, and also on the topic of speed, I would say we said communication, we have the tools in place, but also having clearly documented procedures, especially when it comes to, for example, escalations, we need to have a clear flow, clear ownership, so things move quickly and as smoothly as possible.
That's true as well. And not only have them, but actually follow them.
Yes.
Which can be a challenge for an biz dev team, I know, but we try to.
But we're always here to help.
Yeah, that's true. Right. Susie, thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this discussion and this conversation. So guys, I hope this was useful for you, and I will actually be looking forward to meeting you, speaking with you in person at some of the upcoming events. The next one on the calendar is going to be IFX in Cyprus. So looking forward to it.